This video is sponsored by Squarespace, the fastest and easiest place to build your photography website. Today, we are talking about trips for photographers, and I'm not going to call them the best, like the only best trips that you can do as a photographer, but they are three pretty good locations that you should definitely consider looking kind of at your calendar this year as things begin to open up a little bit more. And the first place, you're probably going to suspect that it's Iceland, and it's actually not. The first location, and I'm ranking these, at least the first one in order of places that I'm the most excited to visit again. And the first place is Japan.
Photographer TJ6-3.7. Let's begin. Ready?
Yes, sir.
Recite your baseline.
A system of frames of the yellow mirrorless began to spin. A system of frames interlinked within frames, interlinked within frames, interlinked within one stem. Frames dreadfully distinct against the dark.
Frames.
Frames.
Does your camera make frames? Frames.
Frames.
Do you use natural frames? Frames.
Frames.
Interlinked.
Interlinked.
Are technology and creative interlinked?
Interlinked.
Interlinked. Japan and photography are interlinked?
Interlinked.
Interlinked. Within frames interlinked.
Within frames interlinked.
Why don't you say that 3 times?
Within frames interlinked. Within frames interlinked. Within frames interlinked.
We're done. You can pick up your mirrorless.
And I find that for a lot of people, for their first trip to Japan or to Tokyo, you kind of get hooked with this idea of just like crazy lights and just general insanity. And that's what brings you there. Somewhere maybe around like day 2 or 3 of being even in Tokyo without even leaving the city, you start to realize that the city is a whole lot more. I should maybe preface this with the fact that I do not like going to big cities, and Tokyo is literally, depending on how you count it, the largest city in the world. And I absolutely love it there.
We're out here in Shinjuku. It is blue hour. Actually, it is almost blue hour according to Alpenglow, the app. Blue hour begins at 5:04 p.m. until 5:15 p.m. So what's going to happen is we have 11 minutes of blue hour. I'm going to try to get as many great shots as I possibly can. One of them is behind me, and then one of them is going to be a tripod shot of traffic with the trains and everything. Hopefully it works out with timing and everything, but we'll find out. Let's go. So I can actually kind of shoot this from right here. This looks pretty fantastic already. The amazing thing with this 24 to 72.8 is the way that it holds kind of highlights together like that. It actually does a really good job making it look as natural as possible and not giving you any crazy lens flares or anything that you just don't really want in your frame. I think we got that photo as good as it's gonna get. I'm gonna head over here and I'm gonna steal my tripod from Tim's backpack. So this billboard up here is my favorite billboard in all of Japan. I don't know why, I just love dogs. Just pushing a shopping cart, it's awesome. I'm gonna steal this. Favorite billboard, prominent. Gonna go down to, what do we want to do? 8-second exposure. I'm happy with that.
I think there's something that is also to be said about, at least for me as somebody that works in a creative space all year, I find that I need time to reset and recharge. And by going to Japan, the time shift, so you're roughly kind of 12 hours. So if it's 11 a.m. here, depending on, I guess, the time of the year, it's 11 p.m. in Japan. So you're working on the opposite calendar, which for me in a mental space allows me to actually relax and to enjoy my days because I'm now awake during the middle of the night here back at home. So I'm not getting hit by emails and text messages of things to do, that I am now able to kind of compartmentalize my business responses to maybe an hour in the evening or an hour in the morning, rather than just kind of going at it all day like I usually would. Visually, Japan really is an incredible space, and you will find visual stimulation kind of everywhere that you go. And every single street really does feel like a photo opportunity. So it's a really enjoyable place to go as far as just exploration and adventure, as well as photography opportunities, as well as just a relaxing mental space to be in if you are somebody that feels a little bit overwhelmed at home from time to time.
We're up here in the Mori Tower to get the quintessential blue hour shot of the Tokyo Tower when it lights up all orange. The rest of the city is blue. The reason we came up here is really for the natural contrast, the fact that the city is all kind of this nice blue-gray, and then the Tokyo Tower really punches out in that bright orange.
Number 2 on the list, I'm going to give this to Havana, Cuba. Visually, there is so much that you could photograph there. There's so much history. There's so much interesting architecture. And you also feel incredibly safe there. I find that wandering around with a camera from time to time, I feel little bit nervous. I felt in Havana that even though there were a lot of people and that you did attract a little bit of attention, that by no means did I ever feel unsafe anywhere in the city.
The sorries of your soul. They are the worries of my house home. I hear the wind howling at my swinging door, but at your house the weather's blessed, nothing more.
And now number 3 on the list is the one that you are probably expecting, which is Iceland. And Iceland is kind of like the Disneyland for photographers, but it's the Disneyland for a reason. When you arrive, everything is a photo. I love that you can just land, you can hop in a car, and you can be driving, and within, I'm going to say that's depending on the time of year and how busy the airport is, that could be a 20-minute transition. That from the airport, you're already out into the Icelandic wilderness within just a couple of minutes. And you can kind of take this trip a number of ways. You can go to Reykjavik and you can be in a city. You can go into the absolute middle of nowhere. You can head to the highlands, or you can just stay around the southern region if you just have a couple of days. We very rarely, maybe one of the evenings, will go into Reykjavik. Other than that, we will spend most of our time just kind of out in the middle of nowhere. And it really is an amazing experience. The randomness of Iceland, I think, as far as the weather goes as well, is very rewarding. You kind of feel like you're playing a slot machine, that when you show up, especially through the winter, if you're there for Northern Lights, that you can show up and it can be cloudy every single day, or you can get a beautiful Northern Lights show every single day, which we've been fortunate enough to receive a couple of times when we've been there. Tim and I, when we were filming the episode for the Nikon show, we drove from the airport to our Airbnb, and as Tim was filling up the hot tub, he was like, "Oh, cool, Northern Lights already," and it was like 5:15 or 6 o'clock at night.
All right, so now we're getting out of the water, and we're gonna try to get some good reflections before the Northern Lights are gone. So we haven't been down there yet. It might be a bit of an adventure. It's going to be a bit of an adventure. Here we go.
This week on Northern Lights Hunters.
Dun, 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 dun. I've got one! Get the net!
So you really do, in some ways, kind of feel like you're in Las Vegas as far as the gambling with the weather goes. But the outcomes that good weather can create are just absolutely out of this world. I guess you're on the planet, but you feel like you're not at times. I feel like it's the furthest you can go to outer space without going to actual outer space. And that, even coming from, I've been to Antarctica, and coming from somebody that's been to Antarctica, I would feel like Iceland feels more otherworldly than Antarctica does. And Iceland is a heck of a lot less expensive to get to. So those are my 3 trips and suggestions that I would have for photographers going into this year, knowing that things are going to start to open up. Iceland's economy is very based on tourism, so they're going to do everything that they can to make it a safe place to go early on. Japan has the Olympics coming up this year, so they're going to be open. And I would suggest, maybe if you're looking to book a trip to Japan, maybe aim a little bit later in the year, like fall, or even maybe 2022 for cherry blossom season, which is typically the last week of March, first week of April. Hopefully this inspired you a little bit to think about what might be happening next once the world goes a little bit back to normal. I want to say thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Head over to squarespace.com/TaylorJackson if you're interested in getting a free trial, and also 10% off your first order. I use Squarespace for all of my websites. The thing that I love the most about them is that I just upload upload everything to my template, and I know that that works across all platforms, whether somebody's viewing my website on an iPad or an iPhone or a computer. I just know it's going to work, and they're in control of that. That does not, I don't have to micromanage that. That just happens. And I also know my website is going to be beautiful on all of those platforms. So head over to squarespace.com/Taylor Jackson if you're interested in getting 10% off your first order, as well as a free trial. Build your website today, and by tomorrow, you'll have a professional website for your photography and or video company. That's all I have to say today. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope that you have a good day. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you again next time.